conversation,
It could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline. Conversations that matter.
Hi, Nate. Hi, Melvi.
Hello.
Hello, and hello, listeners and viewers out there.
So, we're talking about conversations today, right?
Yes, it's an important topic.
We're
Is
having
it
a
really?
conversation on conversations.
Yes,
Exactly. What do you guys see as conversations?
one that's meaningful, no interruptions,
Okay.
and fun, and one that we can actually connect when we have a conversation.
What about you, Nate? What's a conversation to you?
Just an exchange of information. That's the male perspective, right?
And so what we want to talk about, because, I think conversations are important, especially, among friends, among strangers and everything. But sometimes people have bad habits when they are engaged in a conversation, like Melvi, how's your day going today?
It's going great, but this
Oh, but
morning,
you know what? Hold on. Nate, how's your day going today?
I'll be honest, it's not going very well because you're about to interrupt me.
But interrupting, right? How awful is that? I think that's like one habit people should break. How do you guys feel when people interrupt your conversations? You're like, you didn't get your idea out yet, and someone is just like interrupting you.
I get frustrated. I am very, very patient, but when the conversation lingers to where I can no longer talk, then I just stop talking and let the person just talk. And eventually they're going to ask, oh, what were you saying again? I know you said you had a really, really rough day. And I said, I don't know. I lost my train of thoughts. Now, depending on who I'm talking to, okay, because it depends whether if it's a friend or is it at work, professional setting or relatives, depending on the situation. But friends, I am definitely blunt because I do not appreciate interruptions. If they want to hear me talk, then I appreciate their time to be patient when I'm talking until I'm done talking with or I'm done saying what I need to say. Because otherwise, what's the point of talking to me if you're just going to continue to, they call it butt in the conversation, right? Or interrupting, in other words. So it's like this. I'm really happy. Oh yeah, thanks for asking. But anyway, nothing's new. But this morning, and then they're like, well, oh yeah, this morning had a rough day too. No. But yes, but I know, right? And then, okay, so what now? Where is this gonna lead? So I just stay quiet, and I'm not happy about the conversation. So I just stay quiet, and then they'll ask, and that's when I'll pull them aside if we are in a social setting. Now, if it's a friend, like I said, I can be frank, and I would tell them nicely, listen, I do not appreciate being interrupted so many times. If you want to have a good conversation, we need to give way towards each other. It's important that you can also look at those, verbal and nonverbal cues.
What about you, Nate? Have people interrupted you during a conversation?
I mean, all the time. I feel like, though, I'm probably more guilty of that.
What do you mean?
That habit of mine of interrupting people, butting in, giving my own thoughts. Yeah, it's something I need to work on. But I do get more conscientious. Is that the word? Conscious when I'm talking too much. And it's like you start reading their body language, and then I really start getting nervous that like I think I'm talking too much. I need to stop talking. I need to find a place to stop. But I mean, more often than not, though, I do appreciate just any conversation. So
Why do you think people interrupt conversations?
honestly, I think it's because they don't get to communicate maybe with somebody. I think about that too. Whenever somebody is talking like a lot, I have a feeling that they're not able to get all their thoughts out, somewhere else. And I happen to be the one that they want to, spill everything out to. And, I want to be, respectful, but sometimes it's like you're in the middle of something and they keep talking and talking and talking, and you start walking away and you start trying to find ways to transition out of the conversation, and they come up with a new conversation. But I mean, I tend to be a little more on the side of being understanding that, sometimes people just don't get to talk to somebody, and I happen to be somebody that looks like they want to hear everything.
So you're saying maybe like someone who lives by themselves and they have no one to talk to, so that's why they just keep going and interrupt you?
Yeah, or like, that maybe at home they don't, I guess, see their family enough, and you happen to be there to, and you just look like somebody who's willing to listen. um that's where I kind of, yeah, I'm understanding about that if someone tends to be real talkative. But at some point you just like, you need to realize when you're starting to repeat yourself, you know uh or when the person is clearly trying to, do something else, or they're in the middle of something. I think that's the main thing. People need to be a little more aware of who they're
Yeah.
talking to and their body language. Yeah.
And I agree because sometimes, you do have something important to say and then they just interrupt you without even, I mean, for me, I think that's disrespectful because then I feel like I'm not being heard, especially if I have something important to say. And I feel like, why are you going to have a conversation with me if you're just going to interrupt me anyways? Why did you ask? Right? Things like that.
All
I
right,
don't
I'm
know.
gonna I'm gonna ask real quick. What would you rather have? Would you rather have someone who talks too much, or somebody who doesn't talk at all? They're just so, antisocial. What would you rather have?
I would rather have the person who doesn't talk that much because I have a way of being able to talk to them to get them to talk. But the person who talks too much, sometimes they just keep going and going and you can't stop them. I don't know, Melby,
Push
what
the
about you?
brakes. I I am the same page as you are. I would definitely choose the one that doesn't really talk much because I can also learn from them. See, I love conversations. I love to talk. Now, depending on the circumstances, though, right? Sometimes people have no self-awareness, no situational awareness, and no idea of what context means when it comes to conversations. That's just the reality of it. And the thing is, because I'm guilty. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I am also guilty. I've done it in the past where when I get so excited, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, that's great news. But guess what? I also found out that this happened ABC XYZ, and then I feel bad because then I interrupted the person in the middle of their excitement, in the middle of their sentences, for example, or their story that they've been wanting to tell me or share with me. So yeah, I feel bad. So over the course of years of getting more and more experiences, and of course that comes with age, right? That you when we experience to have different scenarios and different even cultural backgrounds. See, we also have to
Mhm.
be mindful with cultures and different it will like the diverse group of people that we also talk to on a daily basis. So there's so many factors that we need to remember, but interruptions definitely is a really bad habit. Like I said, I've done it in the past, and I would apologize to the person that I'm actually talking to. But in a meeting, though, I am very firm. Like when I'm asking a question and somebody interrupts me in the middle of my sentence, I do. I actually would voice out my own feelings and emotions and say, "Is it okay if I can finish what I'm saying first before you jump in?"
Ooh.
Before I lose my train of thoughts. If it's not too much to ask, is that okay? See, before in the past, I wouldn't be able to do that. I would just sit there, no confidence or whatsoever, just quietly taking it all in, just taking notes, but no say or anything. With the past experiences that I've had and all the bad and good things I've experienced when it comes to conversations, I've learned, of course, in a professional setting that you really have to have self confidence in order to be heard.
So we have two of our viewers who actually wrote stuff in the chat. that I think is pretty relevant and I think it's pretty cool. So the first one is from Melanie, where she says she doesn't get interrupted very often, but when she does, it immediately makes her want to cut the conversation short because it's disrespectful, right? But then Oliver put in there, I don't think people interrupt because they want to be rude, but because they're so excited and passionate of what they have to say. And, I do agree with both of them. And I notice for me, when I interrupt, is because let's say Nate's saying something to me and then something comes in my head because I can relate to it, then I kind of interrupt only because I am excited.
Yeah, I've
So I
done
think,
that too. Yeah.
yes, I think I have to agree with Oliver on that one.
See, I'm the
Okay,
I'm the
so
opposite of you guys though. Like I would prefer somebody who likes to talk in general. I lean more in that direction. And I don't know, I have an interest in like people and the
mhm,
things that they're really into. Like I had a friend who had a bath bomb making business. Right? If
okay.
you don't know what a bath bomb is, that's not an explosive. That's you throw it in the bathtub and it bubbles up. So, I was asking like all the little details of it, and he was like, "Are you sure? Like this is like really technical, mundane kind of stuff." I'm like, "No, no, no. Walk me through it. I'm like totally interested because I know he put a lot of time and effort and thinking into it, and
Mhm,
it's like I do appreciate when people are like really passionate about something. Then it's like I do want to hear them, voice it out, and I find that like you can really get people to I guess really appreciate that someone's listening to
mhm,
something that they're really passionate about.
yeah,
And but it has to start with like, do you have a genuine interest in it? Because the last thing you want to do is get somebody to talk about something but you're not really interested, and they're gonna know you're not really engaged and that you don't really care.
yeah. And Renz says he tries to be patient and make sure he's self-aware, but he says he's guilty of interrupting 60% of the time. That's a lot. Now I'm trying to think. When I have conversations with him, does he interrupt me?
I think he's very passionate, maybe. Or
That's
excited.
true.
I
That's
know, like physically, when I'm trying to listen to something and I want to be conscious about that, I'll actually hold my mouth. I'll put my hand over my mouth as a way to like keep my mouth shut,
true.
like
Hmm.
physically keeping my mouth shut. So that is something I do like little things because I am like really, I don't know why, I'm really hyper aware, or I think I'm hyper aware, of a conversation going on. And if I'm going too long and, too long winded, I'm like, oh, I need to stop talking.
Yeah. What about you, Melvi? How was your day today?
You interrupted me earlier, so I can continue
I
my
know,
story.
but
That
that's why we're not
was
interrupting
a good
anymore.
example, by the way.
Exactly. So now I'm asking you, how's your day today?
Well, when you're driving to work and the first thing that you hear is your brake squeaking, moving backward and forward, then that's already making my day frustrating. So I have to schedule an appointment for a brake checkup or
What
maybe
about
even
you,
brake
Nate?
replacements. So it's a
Oh,
bad
no, no,
been a
no.
bad
I
day
got
so
it
far.
way worse. Way worse. I got my brakes and I got my wheel hubs and I got like differential fluids and all sorts of other fluids on this old truck that I bought. So I easily got you beat.
No, see, because those things are just like material stuff, right? I had a bad day. I found out some of my coworkers are trying to say bad things about me to my boss to try to get me fired. So can you guys top that? So that's another one we're going to segment into because that's one things in conversations that people I don't think they understand, where they feel like they always got to top everybody. You're just saying, hey, it's cold here today, and then all of a sudden Nate's all like, no, it's colder here, what are you talking about? And Melvy's all, we got a storm, right?
Oh, that's a
What
big
are your
one,
thoughts?
especially with the weather. If anytime anyone in the South brings up the weather, someone from the North is going to chime in. It's like, oh, yeah, well, here it's 12 inches of snow and everything is ice
Negative
over.
degrees. You're complaining about cold. It's negative over here. You're still positive over there.
Mhm. So what are your thoughts on people who always try to top each other? Like, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, like either their day's going bad or their day's great, but their day is even better. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, it could be kind of, rude to a conversation and rude to say to somebody, but I still fall back on like, I'm really interested in what they have to say. So I'm like, all right, tell me more then about, your cold weather and how much snow you got. Cause I might learn a thing or two, but yeah, it's not a good habit to have. But I mean, me personally, I'm not really offended if someone does that to me.
How about you, Melby?
It doesn't really matter. I adjust. We can't change external factors. We can't change people unless they want to change. So what
Hmm.
I've done, or I continuously do, is just accept the situation as it is, knowing that we all need to learn. So again, I've experienced this in the past, and I continuously experience it, to where somebody's always upping me, whether at work, whether outside work, whether with friends, whether with relatives, especially with relatives for some odd reason. I don't know why. So I just, okay, I guess your day is worse than mine. So then they're just quiet after that. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, they asked me how my day was going. I told them how it was. Oh, yours, not so bad as mine. Okay, so I just stand there or sit there and listen, and let them just have, or lead the conversation to wherever it's going to go. And once they're done talking, then I just stay quiet, and then they feel bad because I have the look on my face. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, so I can't hide it. Like, I'm listening to you, but okay, all I wanted was a friend to sympathize with me right now, right? Not
Hmm.
not have to worry about your problems too, because I got my own right now that I just wanted to vent. So it is what it is. But regardless, again, it depends on who we're having the conversation with, and
And
that
this
has
seems to be a thing with society too, and it's very odd. Like they call it like victimhood points. It's like, oh, I got this and this and this and this on me, when necessarily those things aren't, things to be proud of. Like, you know, I grew up in a bad neighborhood. My car is all beat up and it doesn't work very well. My house is falling apart. I lost my job. It's like that's not necessarily things to be proud of, and yet you do see that in society. People try to bring that up as if it's as a form of credibility, and I find that very
Hmm.
odd that that's a thing nowadays.
Do you guys feel like that's something that you unconsciously do when someone tells you things, all of a sudden you have to one up them? Or do you think that just happens to you more, that when you're talking to people about it, they have to one up you?
I've always wondered, is like, why is that a part of our human nature to
Hmm.
want to one up one each other when it comes to like very odd things, when it comes to weather, when it comes to food, when it comes to how terrible your childhood was? Like, why is that? Why is that? Why is that a thing? Why do we do that?
I
because
don't
we're
know.
humans.
Why do we?
Because we're humans, and I guarantee your audience are scrutinizing us right now as as we're doing this. Who's the most interrupted?
Yeah.
Who
So,
interrupts the most among the three of these hosts or panelists?
but here's Matt. He did say, do you guys think the one upping someone else's bad day experience is a person's way of trying to comfort the other? Like it's not bad, you'll be okay, sort of a thing. Do you think, I mean, when people do that to you guys, do you guys feel like that's what they're doing? Because for me, when
Mm.
people do it to me, I feel like they're just trying to show off. Where, like, if I said, oh, this good thing happened to me, and then they say, oh, no, no, this happened to me because it's better, I feel like they're just trying to show off, instead of, because I shared my joy because I wanted to share it, but then they have to steal that joy from me because theirs is a better joy.
I think there is a lot of truth in that, though. I never thought of it that way. That they're just trying to. It's their form of empathizing with somebody by saying like, hey, I know you're having a bad day, but I've had worse. And so, but it doesn't come off that way sometimes, though.
Mhm.
That's when it comes down to like how effectively are you communicating something. And I'm a lot better now too of, if I communicate something and I think it could be misinterpreted,
Mhm.
I'll try to clarify it right away and say, I hope you don't read this the wrong way. I'm really trying to you know trying to say this instead. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but especially since I'm married.
See, I always give the other person the benefit of the doubt, but if they do it to me occasionally, it's fine. Now, when it's becoming more and more than occasional, then yeah, I will say something. Again, it depends on the situation and it depends on who we're having the conversation with. Like it's so easy, right? When it's our close friends or family members to just tell them directly what our problems are with them when it comes to communication. But in the workplace, we're a bit more care, careful, I guess. Just like what Army's doing right now, talking.
What was that? What was that?
At least she's not upping me this time.
But don't you guys hate that when you're trying to have a conversation with someone, all of a sudden they're getting on their phone and starting to read stuff?
Yes.
Huh? What?
What?
How does that make you guys feel? Because for me, I feel like, if we're trying to talk, why are you going to get on your phone? Because now I don't feel like you're listening to me, or I don't feel like what I'm trying to say is kind of important. You know what I mean? I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's something that is relatively new to, I guess, society. Is this thing that distracts us? Oh, look, you can see the live chat. But we're trying to adjust to that, and I know myself, like if I'm on my phone doing something and somebody starts talking to me and I think it's going to be a conversation, I'll go ahead and shut off my phone and
Hmm.
put it in my pocket so I can give the person, you know, the attention they need. But at the same time, like if I'm trying to talk to somebody and they're on their phone and I know them, I give them the benefit of the doubt that like they might be doing something important. Because that's another
Hmm.
thing too. Like the reality is with smartphones, we have to conduct business. We have to do our
Hmm.
work. We have to communicate important things through our smartphones. So younger people like my son, he's probably just playing Minecraft. But someone older, they're probably actually trying to take care of business. So it's like we mentioned earlier, it's being understanding, and ultimately it comes down to like our relationships with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can extend that benefit of the doubt.
See, for me, I always feel like if I'm going to talk to somebody, I'm not going to be on my phone because that's kind of rude. Because then I feel like they might think I'm not paying attention to them. And so, even like when I go to dinner and stuff, sometimes I don't bring a purse or anything. So I will have my phone, but I'll put it like upside down so that I can't see any notifications and I won't be tempted to do it. But if, let's say, I am expecting a call or I'm expecting something because, like you said, I have to take care of business, then at least I let them know, like we're having a conversation. I'm like, hey, if I look at my phone, it's because I'm expecting this. So at least the person I'm talking to, at least they know that, why I'm doing it. But I would just not flat out, just Nate's talking to me and all of a sudden I'm just on my phone and not even doing anything. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just me. What about you, Melvi?
I do both of what you're doing. When I know that I'm going to be in an important conversation, I put my phone aside. As a matter of fact, I don't even put it on the table. If I am dining with someone or I'm in a group, we're in a group of, let's say, out and about, or let's say having lunch or dinner together, I don't want to see my phone on the table. I'm putting it
Hmm.
aside. Now, just like you, Arnie, I would notify the person if in case I have an important, let's say, a message or important meeting or something that I need my phone for during
Hmm.
the time period that I'm with that someone or with a group of people, then I will let them know that okay, just in case I need to pull my phone out, well, if we're having this conversation, I would say excuse me, or I would just actually walk away. And I would say, okay, I have an important phone call right now, or I need to take care of something. I need to be excused just for a few minutes. I'll be right back.
Hmm.
You have to let them know. But if when I know that let's say a person approached me or a loved one or a friend, for example, and they really need someone to talk to, I put my phone away and I
Hmm.
turn it off, and I would definitely be present throughout the whole conversation with that person that I'm talking to, because
Yeah.
I know that they need me. They
Hmm.
need me. So
Yeah.
I don't want to be interrupted. I don't want to be rude, just like what you said, right? I mean, come on. Let's say if somebody's crying in front of you and they want your sympathy, they want your understanding, but here you are looking at your phone. Oh, wait, hold on, hold your tears. I mean, you can't be saying hold your tears, or could you just, oh, you need water? Let me go get water while you're texting someone, right? I mean, I've seen that literally. And I said, what is going on? Or a parent. Oh, hold on, kiddo. Wait. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, hold on. Mom, I'm falling. Mom, I'm falling. Like in a playground or some sort or something, or in public. And I said, what is going on? Why is she not even watching her kid? So I'm right there looking at the kid. Okay, just in case you fall, I'm gonna come in closer and closer because your mom's not paying attention. All right, what's gonna happen to you now? Oh dear, come on. So yeah, again, if you do not have any sort of self-awareness, situational awareness, then it's gonna be hard. But again, good habits are to be developed. We can learn them. And
Mhm.
again, at the end of the day, it's a matter of choice. Do we
Yeah.
want to better ourselves? Do we want to be better? Do we want to have better relationships with others? And
Mhm.
again, communication is very, very important in all aspects in our lives. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that we need to hone, and it's something that we need to pay attention to.
And for me it's like a turn off when I'm trying to talk to somebody and they're on their phone. So even like when I go on dates and everything, and if some guy pulls out the phone, oh, that's it, he could be your good looking blue eye blonde hair, but if he can't pay attention to me, then nope, sorry.
And I've actually done the opposite where I would pretend to be doing something important on my phone, but I wasn't. Just because I
Done
didn't
that
want to say,
too.
because I didn't want to talk. I'm just like, email. Well, there's no emails. So I'm like, I don't even want to be on my phone right now, but I don't want to talk to anybody
Or
either.
or somebody I don't want to date. And I'm like, yes, mom? Okay. Sorry, I gotta go.
But, you know,
I'm so
I
sorry.
agree with you. I've done that multiple times. Like if I see someone coming up to me and I know they're going to talk and I know they're going to talk about stuff that probably doesn't interest me, or, especially if it's something controversial, right? I will pull out my phone and sometimes I even pretend like I'm on it, like I'm talking to somebody so that they don't have to talk to me.
It's horrible.
Hey, we're giving out our secrets. So now people see us. They might,
I mean,
Let me grab
is
your
that a
phone.
horrible thing to do to somebody? Let's talk about that.
Oh,
is
that's
it?
a question.
It is being dishonest. It is being
I
dishonest.
think we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to have a different topic on that. What is it? Confrontations.
But but
Avoiding
would
confrontation.
would you rather be dishonest that way than be totally rude and just like roll your eyes because you don't want to have that conversation with them? I don't know.
I'm like looking. Well, I'm at the same time I'm looking for something important to do, and I'm like, no, I don't have any emails. Come on, somebody has something for me, please.
You know, you need to have a phone a friend, Nate, where you could just send like an instant message and they'll know to call you. That way it'll rescue you from whatever you need rescuing from.
Sometimes I'm like, Siri set alarm for like 10 seconds. And then as I'm walking,
Alarm.
I'm like, oh, sorry.
See, and you know what? And I keep my phone on silent, right? So that you can't hear the ringer, because I remember one time I was pretending to be on the phone and then my phone rang. So I'm like, oh, now I got to keep it on silent. That way, if I'm pretending I'm talking to somebody, no one's going to know.
That would be
That's a
horrible.
good one. That's horrible. Oh, my cheeks hurt.
Oh, you guys, you cannot tell me you guys don't do that.
No, I don't do that.
I think I've only had it once happen to me. Okay. They're like, wait, aren't you on the phone? Why is it ringing? Just talking to someone. Yeah. You mean yourself? You're talking to yourself?
You're like, your phone looks a lot like Angry Birds.
And see, look, Matt on the chat, he says, great. So looking at your phone to avoid socializing isn't just a Gen Z thing. It's not.
No, we're learning to.
I think it's everyone's way to.
It's everyone's or some people's way of avoiding avoiding confrontations. My
What
goodness,
about you
I'm
guys? What are other bad habits do people have, or have you noticed that people have when it comes to conversations?
I have one at work where I have some coworkers who are very notorious about not listening to anything that other people are telling them because they're just typing. Like, okay, they're there. They won't even look at you, and you're having a conversation with them. It's something important. Just
Hmm.
typing. Okay, yeah, I got you, Molly. All right. Well, and then when you're not done talking and they want to get rid of you, they'll just say, "Can I just get back to you? How about I call you back or email you or shoot you an email and we can meet later?" Well, you could have just said that earlier when I drove by your office. I mean, you could have just not wasted my time and your time while I'm here with this dilemma that I have or reports that needed to be done. And then you tell me off, right? In a discreet way, but then it's still obvious. So, I mean, come on.
But what makes you think they can't multitask where they're listening to you while they're typing?
That's a good question. But I think it's just more of that they don't have that connection with others or
Hmm.
so, the disconnection in communication is there, but I'm very persistent though. So when I mean, there are times where as much as possible I avoid confrontations, but
Hmm.
I've also learned to voice out my own feelings, my own either feelings, ideas, or just say it in a way where hopefully they can hear me out. Because sometimes I do tell them, they'll say, I'm busy right now. I can't talk to you. But this is urgent. Is there any chance you can give me at least a minute of your time?
Hmm.
But they're talking to me in a rude way as they're typing or even they're on the phone. Like I need the answer now, or it's gonna escalate to something else. And so they'll say, okay, fine. So they'll put their phone down or they'll stop doing whatever they're doing in front of their computers, and then they would look at me.
Yeah.
And I love making eye contacts. And I've also learned to be very decisive when it comes to, or very cautious about what words to say for them to listen to me. Because again, every managers or every supervisors are different. So instead of them catering to me, unfortunately, I'm the one catering to their different attributes or attitudes towards various situations. And since I've been working there for quite some time now, I've already observed how each of them reacts to different situations. So I've
See,
learned.
for me, when like if I'm in the middle of typing and I'm in the middle of doing things, and then people come up to me and try to talk to me, if what I'm doing is kind of important, where if I stop, I'm gonna forget what I'm doing because we're getting to that age where you just forget things. Then they come to me and I says, "Give me 1 second, let me finish this, and then we'll talk." Because then at least I'm acknowledging them, but then also so that they understand that what I'm doing is kind of important too. And I'm not trying to disregard them, but I have to get this done. You know what I mean? And the whole eye contact, I get that because I really think we should have eye contact. But then there are some people where it's not that they're ignoring you or anything, but they just really can't look people in the eye. It's just their socialization skills, I guess, is what it is. But there's just some people who it's very uncomfortable for them to look at people in the eye, I've noticed. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's
Nate, your
also
thoughts?
I think on some parts of the autism spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
they don't like to make eye contact, but
Mm-hmm.
that's where you got to be understanding of others. So I'm
Yeah.
familiar with those who have autism, and you'll find maybe some people in the older generation will get offended by somebody who has autism and their
Mm-hmm.
behaviors. They may be rude or they may not care about anything you're saying, but it's like, hey, there's a, you got to understand, you know, their situation. They think differently.
Yeah.
It's by no means that it makes them better or worse. Their minds are just wired differently, and when you understand that, you can communicate, with a lot of people who have that. So that's another thing too. That's why it's really important to know and understand people and just realize like not everybody has the same culture. I mean, that's the other pet
Mm-hmm.
peeve. Like
Yeah.
there's certain cultures where they're always, especially I had a coworker. He was always super submissive to the manager, but the
Mm-hmm.
manager was like, "Hey, our work culture is everyone has to like stand up for themselves, speak for themselves," and he didn't want to do that because that's not how he was raised in his
Yeah.
culture. And so it really helps to try to understand as many backgrounds of people, so that you don't find yourself confused wondering why a person is behaving a certain way. There's probably got to be a good reason. So that's usually where I tried to lean on that, because I do feel like some people, they'll encounter somebody who's mean to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they would just assume like, well, this type of person's mean. It's like, well, that person could also be having a bad day, so
Yeah.
you never know.
And that's true because I do, like, in my line of work, I come across people of different cultures. And one time I was talking to this lady, and her husband's all like, "Don't talk to her. You need to talk to me." And I'm like, "Okay, but I can't. I need to talk to her because she's the person that I'm dealing with." He goes, "No, no, no, no. You don't talk to her. You talk to me." And it wasn't until later that I realized there are some cultures where you're not allowed to talk to the wife. You got to talk to the husband. And at first I was thinking, what's this guy doing? I need the answer from the wife. The wife is the one traveling. I need to talk to her, not him. But, and you just have to get used to different things like that. And it's true,
And you
especially
and you
when you're.
and you bring up the professional setting, because and I think like younger generations don't quite understand this, but in a professional setting, everyone's setting aside their own preferences to a certain degree, so that everybody can kind of be in this middle ground, where everyone can kind of function. So it's like there's give and take, an understood give and take when it comes to interacting with people, with talking to people. And that's what it means to be professional. And a lot of times you need to carry that into other aspects of your life, like when you're dealing with strangers. It's like, just
Mhm,
if you act professional, just understand, okay, let me give up a part of my own attitude, my own culture, set that aside a little bit, so that I can communicate with somebody and try to find some level ground to be on, so
mhm.
that we can come to an understanding. But at the same time, some people aren't on board with that, or they're unaware of that, or they're not willing to do that, or they're completely unaware that you could do that.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's true because, like, even when I first went to New York, I thought everyone was just rude the way they talk. I'm like, why do you guys talk like that? And little did I know that's just how New Yorkers are, right? And so I think, knowing the different cultures, knowing the different backgrounds of people, I think that's really important when you're having conversations with them, because that's really gonna set the tone of how things go, right? What about you, Nate? What are some bad habits you need to get rid of, or you think other people need to get rid of when we're having conversations?
That would be when you are repeating yourself in a conversation. And like the worst habit of that is when you end up in like an infinite loop. Like this drives me crazy when people do this. And I remember talking to somebody who was giving me advice, and she was saying like, you need to take these courses, that way you can get this job. And I was like, yes. And she was like, for you to take this job, you need to take these courses. I was like, yeah, I agree with you. And then you'll be able to get this job. But then you need to take these courses again. I was like, this person kept doing this to me for like 20 minutes, just this infinite loop. And they just did not realize that they were just beating the dead horse with this point. And I find that, I hate to say it, but I find that a lot with like older generations. They tend to repeat themselves a lot, or they end up in a infinite loop of repeating themselves and not knowing when to stop.
For me, like the way you're saying it now, I'm because you said you see it more with older people. I'm thinking maybe they forgot what they told you, and maybe they think they haven't said anything yet, so they got to repeat themselves. I don't know, Melvin. Why do you think people do that? I honestly don't know because I've never had somebody like that talk to me.
I mean, I think it's either it's already they've been accustomed to that. It's a habit they've developed over the years, and it's hard to unlearn some of these bad habits, right? But again, when you guys mentioned two really important aspects is you mentioned tone and a lot of patience. Lots and lots of patience. Everybody's different in the world, whether if it's cultural background or how we've been raised or how we express ourselves in terms of communication. But it boils down to when you're communicating with someone, whether it be whoever that person may be, we have to mirror what they're doing. And at times it's hard, but let's say it's somebody who's shy. You don't want to be the bold person yapping and being aggressive with a person because they're not used to that. So again, we have to read it between the lines of verbal and nonverbal cues. And then, like what you said earlier, Nate, I like what you mentioned, that you have to make adjustments to yourself, because not everybody can do what, let's say, most of us can do or willing to do. It's because it takes work. Like, again, English is my third language. I grew up speaking Pangasinan, Tagalog, and then English, and then learned other languages after that. But still, with with English, it was a struggle for me growing up. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was so scared of speaking when I was a kid. And growing up, it made me realize, I said, if I'm never ever going to learn how to talk, I'll never make friends. I'll never be able to express myself. And I'll just be a mute for life and try to just do, sign language, I guess. But no, it took years and years of practice, years and years of being patient. I even have to ask people before, please be patient with me. I'm still learning how to speak English. I hope that, at some point, or give me a couple of time, or some time to get used to it. And that way we can have a good conversation. But I mean, like I said, you got to choose good and bad habits. In other words, you just make that choice.
So, Nate, you had mentioned about the whole people repeating themselves, right? I'm gonna have to read a comment and then you tell me if it's who you're talking about. So, Melanie put in there,
Oh
I'm
no.
guilty of that sometimes, but it's only because some people can be forgetful, so I find myself having to repeat myself. So is that who you were referring to about saying the same thing over and over again?
No, that's not. It's something different.
Just
Although,
kidding.
although, whenever I'm getting like riled up talking about something, I'll notice my wife will make a hard transition into a different topic, just bring up something else completely out of the blue, and I know what she's doing. She's like, I want to take this conversation somewhere else because my husband's just getting angry, and I know it's happening, but I do appreciate it.
See, that's good. At least you have someone looking after you, because you know what? She doesn't want you to get all riled up. So I think that is pretty good that she knows you well enough that she can do
Yep,
that, right?
she's like, I regret bringing up taxes.
Maybe you gave her that look, Nate. The obvious look.
Now, let me ask you this. So, sometimes when you guys have conversations, are there ever times where you just want to talk to somebody because you just need to get something out and you're not necessarily looking for answers or advice, but then they feel the need to give you advice?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh, what?
That's the thing. If I bring up something, I'm looking for advice.
See, that's a guy thing though, right?
Yes, it is, because I have guy friends who would talk to me about their problems, and then I would sit there and just listen, because I love to listen to what they have to say, whether it's girl problems, money problems, whatever problems they have. And they would look at me and say, how come you're not reacting? You're not saying anything. I need help here. And I look at them and say, well, you didn't ask me specifically if you needed an advice. Well, that's why I called you. That's why I needed to talk to you, because I need advice. I said, well, next time you got to be more specific. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know. But with the girls, it's like, wait a minute. I'm yapping, yapping, yapping. And here you are giving me all this advice, but I don't need advice. I just need someone to talk to. So yeah, you sometimes I'm like, I can't win with you guys. You make up your mind.
And along those lines, I've had somebody tell me, like after, like I would buy a car, for example, and I would sit and he would ask like, how much did you pay for it? And I would show him. And then he would look up on the internet and be like, oh, you overpaid. See, you could have got it for that. And I'm like, thanks. And he would do that for like almost everything. It's not a cool thing to do when someone buys something and you one up them by showing them that they could have done better had they asked this other person. It's such
Yeah,
a terrible thing to do.
that's not cool. Like I understand, like maybe before you bought it, if you were shopping around and they gave you that information, I think that would be helpful, right? But after the fact, and then now they're going to make you feel bad because you spent more money than you should have. Yeah, that's not cool.
And I
And
don't know why. I'm like, why was that good advice? This is already a done deal.
Yeah. See, that's why with me, when I'm talking to somebody, if I'm looking for advice, I will let them know. Like
Right.
just even before I start talking, I'm say, hey, I just want to tell you this. What do you think I should do? Or what are your thoughts? That's how they know I want them to give me their input. But sometimes, like you said, Melly, like if I'm having a bad day, sometimes I just want to talk to people just because I'm upset and I just need to let it out. I don't need solutions. I don't need, so, I don't need them to fix it. I just want to vent out. But then when they feel the need to fix it, then I mean, I can't say anything because I shouldn't have had a conversation if I wasn't planning on hearing what they had to say, right? But but I like to put it out there and I say, hey, I kind of need advice, and then I welcome it. But sometimes when you just want to vent out, for me, I feel like, hey, I just want to vent. And sometimes I tell them I just want to vent, but they feel the need to give advice. So
You
I
know,
don't know.
as from the male perspective, when I hear that, like I feel terrible that you're having this problem and that you need a solution, but I shouldn't say anything because I should just be listening.
Hmm.
It for the male mind, it's like it feels bad because I guess we're just
Hmm.
wired to be like problem, fix it. But that's where it comes down to, like, know your audience. That's also a
Hmm.
professional thing. Um, Try to know who you're talking to. And one of the basic things is that the male and female mind, for the most part, okay, not 100%, but they work differently. The
Hmm.
needs are different
Mhm.
on how it works. And I know that if my wife is bringing up something, that it's better to just listen and not try to solve the problems, unless it is like an obvious problem, like it's like my tire's flat and I'm like, okay, well, this is what we could do to fix it. But other times, in the right context, it's just listen. It's a
Mhm.
bad day, just listen. And I found sometimes I just want that too, and I'll just say that too. I'm like, I just need to just say this and just get it off my chest. So that's where it's like being an effective communicator, like not
Hmm.
assuming people are gonna read your mind. It goes
Mhm.
both ways. Know your audience, know yourself, but ultimately, like, be just understanding of each other. And sometimes, I mean, the way I see it, yeah, I have my own personal preferences when it comes to having a conversation, but in the end, I do value people more than my own personal preferences. So I'm not necessarily like it's my way or, forget this guy. I
Hmm.
think you're the opposite though, Arnie.
Sometimes, but you know what? Purcell did put something in here. So he goes, sometimes giving the listener a heads up that you don't want any advice, but just someone to listen to helps as well, which is
Yes.
true. And then she followed up. Imagine opening up to a group chat full of females. Good luck. Right? Because I think the girls think that they always got to put in their 2 cents.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I when I'm the one who's venting, I actually would tell the person or my friends, guys, I need to vent.
Hmm.
I just need to let this all out. Just sit there and listen. I'm not asking for any advice. I just need to vent, period. And
Hmm.
then yeah, I give them heads up. Now, if it's the other way around, you really have, I mean, yes, we're not mind readers, but sometimes it just shows in their actions, their cues. Again, their verbal and nonverbal cues.
Hmm.
And when you actually pay attention and be patient to, and when you've known them for quite some time now too, it makes a huge difference because then you already know the person. Okay, he or she is not going to ask for an advice because he or she just wants to talk. They just want to talk. But sometimes when I need advice, what I do is I need to vent and I need your opinion on this matter, or I need
Hmm.
your advice on this matter, or I'm in this predicament. Can you kind of help me sort it through? Or maybe I'm not getting this, or maybe I'm doing this wrong. Could you help me out?
You
So
you
Well,
brought
yeah,
up
I
something
let them know.
you brought up something about a group chat. I know with my guy group chat, if I post a problem there, I'm gonna get links back being like, this will solve your problem right here. Get this, you're good to go. Watch this video, show you how to do it.
see, and now you bring that up because when I talk to people, like if I whether I want advice or not, if I kind of might want a little bit, I'll tell my girlfriends because I know they always have stuff to say, right? But if I just need to vent and not get any advice, that's when I call my guy friends because that's when they don't say anything. But is that just me?
Nope, I do the same thing.
Yeah, especially
What?
like if it's like something judgmental. Like there's a lot of things I don't tell my sisters because I already know they're going to be very judgmental or they're going to say, "See, we told you so," right? So I would only share random stuff with them, but I would not talk about stuff with them because I already know what they're going to say. And so I have like different friends. Like if I want advice, I'm going to go to certain people. If I want to be judged, I'm going to go to certain people. If I just want to be listened to and not hear anything, I'm going to go. And then, of course, there's all those people who are wise and who are really good at giving great advice. Then I will go to them for other things. And so I think having those different types of friends helps the conversation. That way you know what to expect, and then you won't get irritated because the guy's just standing there, not making any comments because they don't know what to advise you. Right?
I have those friends that you just mentioned, and when the four of us get together, I don't know who to listen to. I sit there and go, well, great. I should have just not said anything. Now they're all aiming at me. But friends are good to have. It's always nice to
Yeah.
have good conversations. So
Exactly. Because, no matter what, everyone's got to have some kind of a conversation with people, right? Whether it's a fun one where you're just talking about nonsense stuff or, things that's not going to affect your life in any way, right? Or maybe those meaningful conversations where you're looking for advice or you need someone to cheer you up, just different things. But, conversation comes in all kinds of ways. I always like to make the conversation a little lighter because if it gets too serious, I don't know how I'm going to react. So I make a joke out of everything.
I've
I do the
learned to
same
make
thing.
adjustments. I'm actually different with every groups or individual depending on what their personality is. I've learned to adapt and be flexible. And
Yeah.
it's important because, like what Nate said earlier, it's really, really important to have that understanding and patience because in order for us to have that better connection with others, you got to put your pride and ego aside and your differences aside too. So, and
Yeah.
if they're not willing to do it, then by all means, if you are the one who's willing to give and take, then do so to have
Uh-huh.
that better connection with others.
Yeah. Nate, what were your thoughts? You look like you're in deep thought.
Yeah, I was just was I non-verbally communicating that?
Yes.
Yes, you
Was I going like this?
were.
No, I was just thinking like sometimes we don't allow people to be emotional and that those emotions are trying to convey some sort of urgency. So for like example, if someone is like approaching you and they're yelling at you, there's like two reactions to that. Number one, I'm offended. How dare you yell at me? And number two, this must be important because they're yelling at me. Right. And I really dislike when people, you know, react to somebody's emotions and they just shut it down because it's like they're not normally in this state. There has to be a reason why they're in this emotional state. And if you are not, emotionally charged or anything, you kind of have to be the one to absorb that because they may not be acting, the best way. They may say something they don't really mean. And I've
Mhm.
said that to people before. They would come back and apologize, and I would say, "Look, I understand. You get upset, you get angry. We're allowed to get angry. We're allowed to get upset. Um, as much as possible, we don't want to ourselves when we're angry. We don't want to overdo it. But I think, especially for those that we love, we have to allow that to happen and not to fight fire with fire."
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. But our time is up. I can't believe we've been talking for an hour. I'm like, wait, oh my god, time is passing by. But I just want to thank Nate and Melvi for joining us in this conversation today. Because conversations are important. It's a part of life, and like I said, whether it's uh, uh, whether it's a serious conversation or it's something that's fun, you know, there are a lot of things where we have to break some bad habits of conversations, you know, like interrupting and thinking you have to be, you know, better than somebody else. And so I just want to thank you all for joining us in this conversation. And I also want to give a shout out to our viewers who actually tuned in and participated in our chat, because it was just like off the hook. Everyone had something to say. Yes. And especially for those who tuned in from different parts of the world, thank you so much for joining us. We are here well, here in Texas, it's Friday nights at 10 p.m. Melvi, what time is it there at your place?
8. So our
8
time for our show is at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific, yes. And then like 11 o'clock Eastern time. But, you know, chat line, I always enjoy having conversations with everyone on here, because this is a place where, you know, hopefully we have conversations that matter. We hope you got something out of our topic today. And if there's anything else you guys would like us to chat about, just throw it in the chat, and then hopefully we'll be able to have those conversations. Do you guys have any last things you want to say before we close out?
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, like and share.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Yeah.
Yes.
Smash the like button.
Yes.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Tune in again next week when we will have conversations, hopefully, that matter. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
This is what I ask. Let me always dwell in the temple of the Lord till I breathe my